Game On series ended with a bang. We just had a great time. The baseball message, life is like baseball, and I just enjoyed all of those messages that God blessed us with, and I hope that you had an opportunity. I encourage you to download the church app, listen to them. If not, just visit our YouTube channel, and they're there, and it'll be a blessing to you. And we've got some wonderful things coming up. In September, we're going to launch a brand new series. And, of course, we got a couple of standalone messages before then, but we're going to launch a series entitled The Voice. But I don't want to get into none of that right now. This coming Sunday is going to be a great time. I want to preach a message entitled, My House is God's House. And remember, Joshua said, for me and my house, when it comes to me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. I remember my dad telling me as a young boy that whatever he had was God's. It didn't matter if it was his car or an extension cord or a lawnmower, hedge trimmer, whatever it was. He said, whatever God's blessed me with is his. It's not mine. And I remember going to the work days at church and all of that. And whatever we have is God's. I've lived that way when it comes to everything I have. Someone at the church said, well, Pastor, can I borrow your trailer for this at the church and whatever I have is God's. Whatever I have is his. And so, anyway, my house is God's house. This coming Sunday, I urge you to come. We're going to have a great time together. It's going to be a moving message. But tonight I want to share with you another thought. Oh, one more thing I want to mention to you is that the following Sunday, so not the 16th. The 16th is this coming Sunday. The 23rd is the next. Everybody say 23rd. It's like Dr. Pepper, 23 flavors. Are y'all hear me? The 23rd, we're going to receive a special offering for the mission trip. So I want you to think about it, pray about it, prepare your heart. And on the 23rd, I'm asking the Lord to help us to at least be done with the house. We're only about halfway. In fact, we're a little less than halfway to the 10,000 point. Now, I'm talking about building the house. You've got individuals that's raising their own personal budgets of $1,200 a person to go and all that. But no sense in none of us raising budgets to go if we don't have the house money to build the house. So on the 23rd, we're going to receive a special offering that day for the Guatemala trip. And I'm believing God that somehow, by the close of business on the 23rd, we're going to raise that $10,000, that we'll be through with that. And so I want you to pray about that with me and just be led of the Lord. Turn, if you have your Bibles, to Luke's Gospel, chapter number 10. Luke's Gospel, chapter number 10. And I don't know that I've ever... I'm sure I have, because I've been in ministry for 29 years, and I'm quite sure I've probably preached from, or taught from this passage of Scripture, but it's kind of hit me a little differently, and I have sat, and I remember Travis Peavy preaching a great message on this on a Pastor Appreciation Day years ago in the old church, and but I want to share with you what's happening right now. Jesus goes to a home, and there's two ladies there, one by the name of Martha, the other by the name of Mary. And I want to just pick up what happens, and I want you to pay particular attention to the dialogue between Jesus and Martha, Jesus and Mary, Martha and Jesus, and their words about it. We'll just look at all of it and just sort of break this story down. Here it is. Now, it happened as they went that he entered a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. A certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. Now, there's something to be said about inviting the Lord to your house. Are you with me? I think about people that have done that, and matter of fact, on this coming Sunday, I'm going to share with you from the Old Testament someone who invited the Lord to their house, and don't let me get into that because that's a different story. And she had a sister called Mary. So we have Martha, who has invited Jesus into her house, and she has a sister, and her name is Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. Now, I've done a little bit of study earlier today about sitting at one's feet, because we find that throughout the Bible in the New Testament. When Jesus went to Simon the Pharisee's house, there was a widow from the city of Nain, a prostitute, just now gotten saved, no longer a prostitute, but sat at Jesus' feet. And we find that was customary, that they would come and just sort of just curl themselves right at your feet to hear your words. And that's what Mary was doing. But notice verse number 40. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore, tell her to help me. And Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed. And Mary has chosen that good part, which will not be taken away from her. Lord, please add your blessings tonight to this word. And I'll just give you the praise, oh God, for what you're going to do. In Jesus' name, amen. So Jesus comes to Martha's house. Her sister's there with her. And Martha, the Bible says, is cumbered about many things. Jesus said in the New King James, she's distracted with so many things. And she's really, could you imagine? Let me just tell you how it happens with Kelly. Is she in here? Maybe she's there. Oh, yeah, she's here. I'm going to say it anyway. Might as well just leap out. I'm in the doorway, right? So, somebody pulls up in the driveway, and all of a sudden, oh, Lord, it's so-and-so. And then we start picking up towels and moving dishes and this and that. And the other. Y'all with me? None of y'all do that. I remember, man, in the days when I used to visit religiously every week, man, I've seen people hiding cigarette packages and wine bottles, and it's a preacher. Matter of fact, I remember Gina and Denise Carver and different ones, and they'd call and say, hey, Brother Mike's in Browntown. Y'all put it all up, whatever. So, but anyway, the Bible says Martha was cumbered about many things. And what I was wanting to show you is that, ladies, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, I've gone to ladies' houses that were as clean as a pin. I would have eaten off the floor. And they say, oh, please excuse this mess. This thing is just a wreck. I ain't had no time. And Lord, have mercy, my house is filthy. And here you come. And it didn't even bother me. Are you with me? And then, man, Martha, I don't know if she's trying to get the microwave cleaned up. I don't know what she's doing. But she's doing her thing, and she's really getting the meal ready. And I don't know if she's buttering the bread. I don't know if she's pouring the juice. I don't know. But she's just really going for it. Could have been sweeping things up. I don't know. But she's just beside herself. And Jesus has come in, and Mary, her sister, has realized who it is that come in. And she's just taken back at him. And she looks at him, and this is not a lustful look, but she looks at him, and she just sort of follows him to where he sits down, and he sits down, and she just curls right up at his feet and just begins to converse with him, and Jesus just begins to talk, and she's just drinking in his words, everything he says. Meanwhile, Martha is still buttering the biscuits over here and checking on the roast or whatever. I don't know what else she's cooking, but she's going for it. She's cooking. She's busy. I don't know if she's washing or dusting or whatever, getting the glasses ready and whatever. And finally, she just comes in the room and says, Jesus, do you see what I'm doing? I'm having to do this all by myself. Ain't nobody helping me. Tell her to get up. Huh? Tell her to get up and help me. I mean, we need to strain the noodles, or we need to do this, or we need to do that. And obviously that's mycology, but she says, I just need some help, and she's just hanging out listening to you. And Jesus says, Martha, you're troubled about a lot of things, There's a lot going on in your mind right now. You're really cumbered about the turkey in the oven or whatever, or the juice or the ice. There's a lot of things distracting you, and you've been concerned about the dust and this and that and the other. But you really need one thing. There's one thing that's really needful, and I'm not talking about another side item. I'm not talking about a dessert. I'm not talking about a prettier glass. I'm not talking about some great bowl to serve this meal in. He says, there's one thing you really need is to do what she's doing. Now, I want to draw a contrast, if I may, because you've heard me preach so much. I've hammered it down, and I'm going to keep hammering it about serving. We need to serve the Lord, and we do. But not at the expense of worshiping the Lord. I want to say that again and slowly. We need to serve the Lord. We need to be cumbered about things. We need tomorrow 5 people to help us spread seed on 4 acres. Good commercial, Brother Keith. We need people serving. We need people helping us. But not at the expense of your relationship with God. When you finally slow down and say, you know what, preaching is important. Playing music is important. Checking in is important. Yard work is important. Cleaning the building is important. All of these things, the babies are important. The music is, all of that's important. But the most important thing we do in this building is to worship Him. That is the number one thing that we do here, is that we reach people and we lead them into worship of Him. So what I want to get is this, that to Martha's credit, verse 38 says that she did receive Jesus into her house. I'm thankful. I'm thankful she received Jesus into her house. She was willing to serve Him. I don't know what kind of meal she was cooking. I don't know. I don't know if Mary was busy with her until Jesus got there, and then she just left off cold turkey and said, I just got to sit with Him a little while. But she did that, and then she was the first to go with Him when He was in need, according to John 11, 20 and 30. She had faith in Him, according to John 11. She believed in the bodily resurrection and eternal life, according to John 11. She confessed Jesus to be the Christ, to be God's Son. We're talking about Martha. She carried Christ's message to Mary in John 11:27. But today, she is distracted. And she's drawn in so many different ways. And I want to suggest to you that perhaps, and I'm going to just tell you as a pastor, I have oftentimes gotten distracted doing godly things. What do you mean, Pastor? Well, I open up my Google Calendar, and I have counseling at 9:30 to 10:30. And then I have a planning meeting from 10:30 to 12. Or actually, it was 10 to 12. It was scheduled. Have one tomorrow. We have someone coming to look at the grass and this and that and the other. And we have someone this. And then I have a wedding this month and a wedding next month and a wedding next month and rehearsals with all of those. And be in Tifton this Friday night and Saturday and be back in Tifton. You understand there's a lot cumbered about many things. And it's easy to get busy doing godly things. In the middle of all that is life groups. Are y'all with me? So it's Sunday, and Sunday's game day for us, man. Saturday, we're here till 12 o'clock on Saturday. Whether y'all know it or not, we get here at 9, and we're here till 12 every Saturday. So it's almost like it's a never-ending grind. Sunday comes twice a week for me. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't do anything else. I praise God for it. I'm using myself in this example, that you can get busy doing godly things. Preparing for life group, preparing for preaching, going to a hospital, going to visit, making sure things are out here for things to get done, checking with the staff, making sure we will be taking 20 people to Daytona later in October, planning next year and what we're going to see God do next year. I want to remind you, you say, wait a minute, Pastor, you mean to tell me you're going to take, let me tell you, we took 15 last year. Yep, we probably spent $1,500 doing that, but we exceeded every goal that we wrote down in the Hyatt Hotel last year. Every goal we exceeded. If we don't plan, we have planned to fail. So we will set some goals again, and we will again reach them. Amen? We'll put our nose to the grindstone. But what I'm saying right now is we're planning, and we're digging, and we're asking God, how, like right now, I'm saying, Lord, how can we enhance Wednesday night and get some in-depth Bible study to the people? How can we improve what we're going to offer this fall? How can we make our experiences better where people get a greater glimpse of God's glory? And you can be cumbered about many things, and you could be distracted. While reading great books today, I read from John Maxwell's Godly Leadership. I read from, I can't remember who wrote it, but Chestnut Checkers. I read from Bill Easom's Go Big. I looked at another title. I did not get deep into it. Sticky Teams. And constantly digging, constantly searching, constantly reaching. You say, well, it's doing godly work. Yes, it is. But don't ever mistake that for having some face time with the Lord. Some one-on-one where you set aside all of that and you don't worry about the meeting coming and this and that and the other. And you just simply say, God, speak to my heart. Let me hear from you. I'm going to tell you, you know what flies best in the church? Is when I'm sitting there, just me and my recorder. Or me and a legal pad. Sometimes it's right there. Sometimes it's in there. Sometimes it's at the house. When God births an idea in my mind, it's just me and Him talking. And all of a sudden it begins to take shape on paper. And then it develops in staff meetings, and then it comes to you. Some of the greatest messages, some of the greatest series, some of all of that happens when God, just one-on-one time with Him. Martha was cumbered about a lot of things, and I think we are. You know why? Let me give you an example. Because you work your 40-hour job, or 48, or 56, or whatever it is that you're doing, and then your kids are in soccer. They play ball, they play sports, they're in cheerleading, they're in dance, they're in this, and they're in that, and then there's your overtime, and then you got to get the kids to see their daddy, or their mother, or you've got to do this, and you have got to do that, and then the house is up for sale, and you're having trouble with your payments, and all these things you add together, and you get distracted by many things. And we tell the most important thing, one day when I have time, I'll really sit down with you, God. You remember, as a man, I'm going to tell my age right now, but back, I believe it was in the 70s, I can't even remember, he said, the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. This is a man talking to his little boy. You know, talking to his little boy. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. And the way the song ends is the boy's grown up now, and Daddy's done retired and maybe gone to a home, or maybe he's at home, and he's begging for his son's attention. And it's when you're coming home, son. I don't know when, he says, but we'll get together then. We cannot be so cumbered and so distracted by other things that we miss the most important thing. The most important thing in this world is our relationship with Jesus Christ. Outside of that, nothing else matters. If we're not where we ought to be with the Lord, why make all this look wonderful and miss heaven? Why everybody else... we work and strive to do that, to carry the gospel, and then we forsake our own. We have to be very careful. Because if not, we'll be just like Martha. We'll work ourselves to death. And, in a church, we're also guilty as leaders sometimes, is when we find a good horse that can run. I'm not trying to talk bad about anybody and referring to you as a strong horse or anything like that, but so many times if we find somebody that'll work man, we'll work them to death. Matter of fact, I got a couple of life group leaders this time. I just got to flat tell them, no, cannot lead this time. Not because you failed, not because I don't like you. It's simply because you're going to burn yourself out. And you need to take a break. Go to a life group if you want to go to one. But we cannot allow champion people to work so hard to their tongues just hanging out and they have nothing left to offer. Let me say this. You get somebody that's on fire for God, that's, say you're leading a group, one of these discipleship groups that's really booming, and all of a sudden you have to take off a semester. You are going to be chomping at the bit to get back to it once it's time to get back to it. Okay, she was distracted. That is, she was drawn in so many different ways. The devil is good at distracting us and pulling us in so many different ways. So if we're not careful, you know, we could do what is good instead of doing what is best. If we're not careful, we will decide, I'm going to serve, and we justify it by saying, well, I'm serving, and that's true. And we decide to serve instead of worship. Let me say this. We cannot settle for second best. So let me move on. I want to read this to you in the Message Bible in just a moment. The scholar says this, that Jesus did not chide her for serving. He did not scold her for serving. His words were that you are over-serving. Have you ever seen somebody that just overdoes it? I went to a restaurant the other day, and this don't happen often. This is rare. I bet you the girl asked me 47 times if I wanted some more tea. I almost wanted to just say, just please let me eat. I didn't do that. I'm just too nice to do that. I didn't do that. But, I mean, if my glass was that far down, she filled it up. I'm talking about that far from the top. And it's okay. But she was just overdoing it. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're drinking half and half. I done got my mixture right. Y'all with me? Y'all thought I was just being mean. Now, I wasn't mean to her at all. In fact, we left her a wonderful tip and a card about the church. But we can be overcharged, and Martha was just overcharged with serving. And Jesus said, serving's okay, but Mary has done that wonderful thing. Let me read this to you in the Message Bible. Jesus says in 41, Martha, you are careful and troubled about many things. Many things troubled about literally means anxious and agitated. I won't ask for a show of hands of who else has been anxious and agitated. But Eugene Peterson said it this way in the Message Bible. As they continued their travel, Jesus entered into a village, and a woman by the name of Martha welcomed him and made him feel quite at home. She had a sister, Mary, who sat before the Master, hanging on every word he said. But Martha was pulled away by all that she had to do in the kitchen. Later, she stepped in, interrupting them. Master, don't you care that my sister has abandoned me in the kitchen? She's abandoned the kitchen to me. Tell her to lend me a hand. Before I go further, have you ever wanted to just go back and tell the pastor or the associate pastor, I just wish you realized I'm the only one back here working? I know you have, but everybody's real stoic right now. Nobody wants to say that. I'm the only one back here showing up. I'm the only one sorting cards. I'm the only one doing this or putting up chairs or whatever. Martha was cumbered about so many things, and she got beside herself. And, you know, and it's easy to do if worship is not paramount in your mind. And I know what Martha's thinking. Well, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And what Jesus was simply saying, hey, here it is. Watch this. We're going to eat. It's going to be fine. Let's take care of first things first. First things first. Let me finish this. 41 says, the Master said, Martha, dear Martha, you're fussing far too much and getting yourself worked up over nothing. Only one thing is essential, and Mary has chosen it. It's the main course, and it won't be taken from her. In other words, no, And what he said here is a mouthful. It's the main course. I know you're cooking a fabulous meal and you think that's what this is all about. But what she's doing is the main course. Are y'all catching this? This is the real deal right here. Oh, we're going to eat, he says. But this is essential. And what she has chosen will not be taken from her. In other words, she has chosen to worship. Now, I don't know that maybe she served earlier in the day. Maybe she prepared what she thought was her part earlier. I don't know. But Jesus simply says this. I'm not chiding you about not serving. He says, but I want you to worship. Because serving is important, but worship is more important. Now, I find, and I'm not going to linger here, because I'm on this kick right now to show you this deal. Martha's house became God's house this day. Martha said, I'll invite you in. You can come to my house. Now, how many of y'all have ever had somebody invite themselves to your house? That's really not cool, is it? You know, man, you don't ever know what your house might look like, and somebody just invites themselves to your house. And anyway. But Jesus did it. He was walking through town one day, and a young man, well, I don't know how young he was, I may be misstating that, but Zacchaeus heard that Jesus was coming by, and he wanted to see him because he'd heard a lot about him, and he was a little bitty short man. He was height challenged. So he found a sycamore tree, and he climbed up in this tree to get a good look at Jesus when he walked by. And so as Jesus is walking by through the press and through the crowd, Zacchaeus looks down and sees Jesus. And Jesus gets right up under the limb that he's on and looks up and sees Zacchaeus. Some writer said it's the first time ever that the Son of God looked up and man looked down. But anyway, he said, Zacchaeus, come down. I must abide in your house today. Now, how would you like that? For Jesus to come, invite his own self to your house. It's a glorious story. It's wonderful. It comes out of Luke 10 or Luke 19. And I'll just read it and we'll close with that. Jesus entered and passed through Jericho, and behold, there's this man named Zacchaeus who's a chief tax collector, and he was rich. And he sought to see Jesus, but could not because of the crowd, for he was of short stature. So he ran ahead and he climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, and he was going to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him, and he said, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must stay at your house. How about that? My house is God's house. Well, I don't know if Zacchaeus' wife cleaned up that day when he left for work or whatever, but they got an honored guest coming, and he's invited himself. Make haste and come down, for today I must stay at your house. So he made haste and he came down and received him joyfully. But when they saw it, they all complained, saying, he's gone to be a guest with a man who is a sinner. I'll tell you something. You know who said that? Religious people. Did you know something? The only people that gave Jesus real trouble was the church. Y'all hear me? His trouble didn't come mainly from the outside. It came from the people that's supposed to be religious. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times our greatest trouble is not from the outside. It's people backbiting and killing from within. Maybe not this church, maybe another church or whatever, but it's people who are supposed to be right with God. Anyway, enough about that. Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord. Now we've got some room here for commentary, and I can't help myself to commentate this. Verse 8. See, what happened is Jesus did go to his house, and he sat down and he ate a meal. And I don't know everything that he talked to because it's not explicit. It doesn't say it. At least I don't find it where where we have the text of what was the conversation was about at dinner. But implicitly, because of what he said as he's leaving, it lends us an idea of what they talked about. Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, I give half of my goods to the poor. And if I've taken anything from anyone by false accusation, I restore fourfold." Jesus said to him, "Today, salvation has come to this house, because he also is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost." I would say to you, for a rich man, for a tax collector, and not just a tax collector, the chief tax collector, for him to be able to say, if I've taken anything, I'll restore it fourfold. If I took $25, I'll give back 100. And to start with, Lord, half of all my goods I now give to the poor. I would say to you that visit was pretty profound. Whatever was discussed at the table was powerful. And Zacchaeus says, "I give away half of all I've done, all I've achieved, and I'll restore." In other words, you know what he was doing? He was admitting, most likely, that I have probably hoodwinked a few people. But they're going to learn now that Zacchaeus, the chief tax collector, has gotten right with God and has made a bold statement. If I have taken anything, if I took $10, I'll give back 40. And that's what happens when you get right with God. Amen? When you get right with God. So, hey, in this particular case, Martha invited Jesus to her house. In the other case, Jesus invited himself to Zacchaeus' house. Now, thank God for the story. Thank God for what happened. The gist of it is this. Don't get so burdened down and so distracted, so cumbered, so anxious about other things. Serving here, serving there, doing this, doing that. Well, listen, I'm not giving you an excuse to say, "Well, Pastor, I just can't serve nowhere. I just got to come worship." If you tell me you ain't going to serve nowhere in the church, I better see you worshiping your heart out every Sunday. That's right. Or find somewhere else to worship. Because we believe in worshiping the Lord and we believe in serving the Lord. Amen? We'll serve the Lord with fullness and gladness of our heart. Stand with me, if you will, tonight. And I believe it's important that we serve in the area of our giftedness. I was reading where John Maxwell said today that don't send a duck to eagle school. A duck can swim good, but he ain't never going to fly like an eagle. Are you with me? That's right. And what he's saying is we've got some natural gifts and natural abilities and natural talents, and then you add the anointing of the Lord. But we should work in our area of giftedness where God has bestowed gifts upon us. And I'm looking forward to serving. Matter of fact, this past Sunday, I talked about getting in the game. I had 4 or 5 people that signed up at the Connection Center that we'll be calling to see how bad they really want to get in the game. God's got something for you to do. I want to challenge you to be about serving, but more importantly, be about worship. Father, we love you tonight. We honor you.